Hello, friends. Welcome to the YouTube channel of Life and More. We have a renowned choreographer and an ace classical dance exponent, Dr. Anita Ratnam, with us today. She is presenting Nachiyar Next, a dance theatre production exploring the life and legacy of Andal, the 7th century poet saint of Tamil Nadu, at Chinmaya Mission Hall in New Delhi on the 31st of this month. Welcome, Anita ji. Namaskar.
Namaskar, and thank you for
So, Anita
inviting
ji,
me. Yeah, thank you. Please,
oh,
please
pleasure
ask.
is all mine. Pleasure is all mine. So, plus, tell us more about your forthcoming performance and
Yeah,
what compelled you to pick up Andal this time.
okay, okay. Uh, the performance is called Nachiyar Next. The reason is Nachiyar, is a Tamil word which means a noble lady, and it was also a name given to a lot of respectable and upper class women. So it's not only about Andal. Now, Andal,
Mm.
the word means the one who ruled the Lord's heart, which is in this case
Okay.
Vishnu's heart. She was her story is very famous amongst many communities in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Andhra, Telangana. And her poems are still recited. She's the only mystic poet of all the mystic poet saints of the Bhakti movement in India to have her own temple and her own living
Okay.
tradition. And she's the only mystic poet to have attained the status of a goddess. But she's not
Okay.
known for people outside these communities and outside areas of South India. She's
Mm.
often compared to Mirabai because
Mm.
they both almost, I would say, 800 years apart. You know, they both dreamt of Krishna as their beloved. They, Mirabai was a Rajasthani princess, whereas Andal,
Mm.
who is her name is Goda, which means a beautiful garland. That's the Tamil. That's the name she was given. She was discovered in a Tulasi garden, and
Okay.
yeah, she was discovered in a Tulasi garden by the priest who is a garland maker. He would make the Tulasi garland every day to give to offer to the Lord. So his name was Vishnu Chittan, which means the one who has Vishnu in his heart. He has no children. And one day, as
Mhm.
he's plucking the tulasi, he hears a baby's cry. He sees this baby. Somebody's left the child and picks it up. He thinks it's a divine gift and takes her home and brings her up. He adopts her and brings her up. Now, Andal's poetry is part of classical Bharatanatyam classical dance repertoire for many young girls because she began composing, they say, when she was maybe 9, 10. Very brilliant mind, beautiful imagination. And she wrote songs about community prosperity, of timely rains, of cows that had their udders full of milk, of happy houses, of families who have good children. So there were all these, she sang about everybody. There was a we, like a collective we in her early
Mhm.
poems, and they were all beautifully tuned and very popular with women. And it was something natural that young girls, when they were learning Bharatanatyam, would perform at least one of her songs.
Okay.
And she's written two sets of poems. One is the more innocent one called the Tirupave. One is the
Mhm.
um, more mature one in which she is actually now pulling away from her friends and her family, and she's really talking with a yearning and the longing and Krishna, come to me, speak to me, hold me, hug me. uh, I have nobody but you. She calls all of nature and the birds and the bees and the peacocks and the rain and the clouds and the ocean waves. And, all her love outpouring is going to Krishna. So anybody who is looking at even poetry and a feminist poetry or a woman's voice will be automatically attracted to Goda Andal's voice because they
Okay.
say she didn't even live to be 1920. That's all her
Oh.
span was, very young age. And in
Mm-hmm.
that, she created this kind of impact. So if we have to think a little further, you ask me why I pick up this topic.
Mm-hmm.
This is my fifth full length production on her story. Five.
Okay.
So I've been
Okay.
exploring her life in many different ways in many different dance productions. So this is my
Okay.
fifth, and I think this is my most ambitious. And in all
Mm-hmm.
other productions, I played Andal. I was Andal. But
Mm-hmm.
now, after my previous one was, I did one in the 1990s, then I did one in 2000, then I did one in 2010, then I did one in 2015. Then I said, look, Andal was a teenager, a young girl. I have to
Okay.
step back and find somebody else. So that's what a younger person, much younger girl in her 20s is playing
Mm-hmm.
that role. And I'm playing the Sutradhar, her inner voice,
Okay.
her conscience, her shadow, that kind of a role I've created. It's a
Okay.
beautiful story. It is it's a story in which you will be surprised. Here is this girl. If you imagine what is seventh century India, uh, the Bhakti movement had just started. Okay, around the sixth century, and a lot of Jain and Buddhist ideas were there because Jainism and Buddhism were very strong and very prevalent. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
the South Indian kings had been converted to Jainism and Buddhism, and the ministers and priests in the courts were also Jains and Buddhists. So when the Bhakti movement started, where they said Shiva is our friend and Vishnu is our friend, and people from all walks of life, or from all classes, began to sing about their chosen God as their friend in the language of the common people, not in Buddhist or Pali or Sanskrit. You see, then suddenly God became more approachable to everybody. You didn't have to go
Mm-hmm.
through a priest, through a minister. You didn't need translation. So the movement gained momentum. So she comes in that time, early Bhakti period time, and many of her images of nature, she talks about starving herself, for instance. It's
Mm-hmm.
like starving, which is also Jain Salekhana, the Jain
Mm-hmm.
principle of voluntarily withdrawing from the world, you know, under supervision until you pass away, is slowly needing less and less and less and less and less. She speaks about it also. So
Mm-hmm.
the poetry is beautiful, the story is gorgeous. According to legend, she disappeared, or she was absorbed into the Lord. They say she was taken dressed as a bride into the sanctum of the Vishnu temple in a very famous temple town called Sri Rangam in Tamil Nadu,
Mm-hmm.
and she disappeared. Well, that's what the legend says. But think about it. That all the female saints, all they could be the Varkari poets of Maharashtra, Sakubai, Janabai, Lal Ded, Mirabai. Nobody was allowed to grow old to share their wisdom with us. They were all
Mm-hmm.
considered troublemakers in their time. You know, they either refused to be married or they stepped out of their marriage, and they were
Mm-hmm.
singing about Shiv and Vishnu and Pandurang and Vithala and Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
And it must have been dangerous to society to have these women wander
Women.
free. Yeah. And it must have been a threat to the order of what a family is supposed to be. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't know actually what happened to them. We don't know. We
Mm-hmm.
do know that
Mm-hmm.
they created a ripple. They were disruptors in their own way and in their own time. And very young in their life, they just stop. They just
Mm-hmm.
they say
Disappeared.
she that's it, disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, my work is not just about Nachiyar Andal, but recovering these voices of women
Mm-hmm.
through all the stories I tell. So they're all
Mm-hmm.
familiar people, familiar women, but how do I look
Mm-hmm.
at them? What is the lens through which I look at them?
Mm-hmm. So, is this the first time that you are bringing Andal to North India? You said that it is she is
I
known in the south, but
Yes, yes, I did the earlier version in 2003. So you can imagine
hmm,
it's been 21
hmm,
years in which I played
yeah.
I played Andal and I got some beautiful responses. But this is a more mature work because I have a group of 7 dancers. I have a
Hmm,
male performer playing her father, her foster father, and I also have another male priest because there's a
hmm,
tradition in Vishnu temples of singing, chanting, and dancing before
hmm.
before Vishnu.
The
There's
Lord.
so
Hmm,
I bring two theater elements into it, ritual elements.
hmm,
I have an all female orchestra. All four are women,
hmm,
and
hmm,
we are telling the story more from the the idea of her as a poet. You know,
hmm,
bhakti comes, yes, it's there in the end, but you are watching the story of a young girl whose
hmm,
stubbornness and whose fierce, conviction of
hmm,
Krishna is for me, I am for
hmm,
Krishna, and if any man touches my body, I will die. I am not here for a human relationship.
hmm,
So it's there in her words. It's not like I am,
hmm,
making things up. All the Tamil that I say is in her words. The English translation and the
hmm.
script is mine. So I've made an
Okay.
English version because as a Sutradhar, because
Hmm,
I want you and others who are not familiar with Tamil, not familiar with the story, to say,
hmm,
wow, this girl lived that early. 7th century pe she was like this, dreaming and singing and writing about Krishna. uh, Mirabai in the north is so celebrated, but there is no temple.
hmm,
But
hmm,
Mirabai was in the 16th century when the Mughals had already
hmm,
come. Yeah,
hmm,
and behind her was so many centuries of bhakti poets.
hmm,
So
hmm,
she came towards the end of the bhakti movement, towards the end. There's still
hmm.
100 years of
Yeah.
with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Bengal.
Hmm,
But look at
hmm,
Andal, where she's in 7th century, and the bhakti
hmm,
movement that ended in the 17th century. So she was at the
hmm,
early part of 1000 years. So today,
hmm,
when we even, I mean, as women, the two of us, when we just look at the bhakti movement, we find that the voices of women are few, but they are very powerful.
hmm. Right.
Lalo is very powerful in Kashmir.
Hmm,
Mirabai is very
hmm,
powerful, powerful. And we have them in Maharashtra, we have them in Karnataka, and we've got smaller,
hmm,
lesser known people. The voices are
hmm,
powerful. We just have not found the time to make their voices louder.
hmm.
So
Not
I
not
really,
being acknowledged.
yes, and not being
Hmm,
acknowledged as as rebels in their time.
hmm,
As I
hmm,
mean, today they'll be called feminist troublemaker rebels, disruptors. We have all these new names. What I'm saying is, it must have been so difficult in those times when travel was
hmm,
difficult, sharing ideas was difficult, expressing oneself is difficult. So, how difficult in such conservative communities it must have been
hmm,
for these women,
hmm,
and their voices and belief must have been so strong that they had a group of devotees, friends, let's say friends, who either love
hmm,
their poetry or love their music, because we know now that Akbar and Tansen would come disguised to come and sit and listen to
hmm,
Mirabai. you know
hmm,
so
hmm,
we need to, in all the larger discourse of Atmanirbhar Bharat and Nari Shakti and all the other things we're talking about politically, we can take
hmm,
inspiration from the lives and the words of these women.
hmm,
We
hmm.
can.
Yeah, true, true. So, will you be taking this theater production to other cities also, other venues, or
Yes,
this is
we've
just it?
no. This is one in Delhi. We've
Hmm.
already finished Bengaluru and
Okay.
Mumbai, and
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
are now Delhi. It's a large
Hmm.
group. We're 15 people. 15 people.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I'm planning Kerala. I'm planning
Hmm.
Kolkata because I love Kolkata, and I think It's a beautiful city, and they will really love the music and the art. I actually
Mm.
am very keen on taking it to Pune and to
Mm-hmm.
Ahmedabad, Dehradun, Chandigarh,
Mm.
Amritsar. So
Ha,
the
I was coming to
you
that.
know,
The North Indian cities.
yes, yes. So
Uh-huh.
Dehradun,
Mm.
Chandigarh, Amritsar, we are trying to
Mm.
identify organizations that can invite us, because it's not just
Mm.
the invitation, it's also the travel. And it's
Mm.
also with organizations who will treat artists well, you know,
Mm.
who will give us the stage, who will give us time to set up the
Mm.
stage. I work with
Mm.
lights, I work with
Mm-hmm.
good design and costumes. So there's a very charming story here that I bring into the production. See, Andal
Mm-hmm.
is supposed to have very secretly taken the Tulsi Mala that her father made for Vishnu. Before it went to the temple,
Mm.
she'll wear it on herself and admire
Okay.
her reflection in the well, in the water of the well,
Mm-hmm.
to say, "See Krishna, see how beautiful I look." And her father finds out that, you know,
Mm.
because he
Mm.
sees a hair once on that
Mm.
neck, on that garland. He calls her and
Mm.
shouts at her and all that. He makes a fresh garland and takes it to the temple, but the garland falls off the idol. It doesn't, he makes one more, it again slips off. So then he hears a
Okay.
voice. He hears a voice in his sleep that Vishnu is
Mm.
saying, "You bring me the garland that Goda wore first. I will only wear that
Mm.
garland." So, so
Okay.
from that day, she's also called Sudi Kudutha Nachiyar, the one who wore, hold on, not who wore the garland before it was
Mm-hmm.
offered to Vishnu. So that was
Mm.
very interesting. The mirror thing, no, the reflection. I've created a scene where she's admiring herself. It cannot be in the well, but I've created the idea of reflection and her admiring herself. So that is
Mm.
one of the
Mm.
highlights of the production.
Okay.
I
Mm.
certainly, I've created it for Gen Z and the millennials. I've created it for
Mm.
people who don't know the story and who can understand the story
Mm.
of this remarkable teenager who can
Mm-hmm.
laugh and enjoy and smile and cry with her, you know, as her
Mm.
heart breaks in the end. So it's
Mm.
made specifically for, I would say, of course, my people, the Tamilians, but also from outside. So the reception we've got has been overwhelming so far. Mumbai was
Mm-hmm.
amazing. They just got on their feet and gave us a standing ovation. I'm looking forward to Delhi. Um, and then who knows where else it will go.
Yeah, yeah. So, how
Yeah.
many total incidents from her life have you picked up? Have you woven into
Oh,
the
see,
production?
her birth, how she was discovered, uh,
Mm.
her, her taking her friends and bathing early morning in the river and going to the temple to wake up the Lord. Then
Mm.
there is a wedding dream. She says, "I dreamt of
Mm.
this wedding," and there's a vivid description of the 9 steps of a wedding that tells her friends in a dream. Those steps, can I tell you, is still practiced today. That is how uh, a South Indian Brahmin wedding is conducted,
Okay.
according to Andal's dream. You
Mm.
know, and
Okay.
then we have a section of dance which is when she calls out to nature, the peacocks, the birds, the
Mm.
bees, the ocean waves. We have
Mm.
that. We have the mirror
Mm.
scene, and then we have a beautiful scene in which she speaks to the Panchajanya, the conch, as a
Okay.
solo. And she says, "You tell me
Mm-hmm.
now, how do Krishna's lips taste? Because you're kissing Krishna's lips all the time. Now
Okay.
you tell me how they taste. Do they taste like karpur, or do they taste
Mm.
like lotus? You know. So you tell me now how Krishna's lips." So that is a very sweet monologue with that. And then we have then we have a very interesting scene which is still practiced today,
Mm-hmm.
which is a fortune teller. The gypsy as a fortune
Mm-hmm.
teller. They read your destiny in a bed of either pearls, rice, or shells. So
Mm.
the gypsy comes to read Andal's fortune and says
Mm.
she's going to be Vishnu's bride. And then her
Okay.
final journey dressed as a bride to go to Vishnu, where she disappears and becomes the goddess. So
Okay.
it is basically incidents of in her life, from birth
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
discovery to her final
To her.
merging with the Lord. Yes. And it's
Okay.
70 minutes long.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's quite long.
70 minutes is long today post
Hmm.
COVID.
Hmm.
My earlier versions were 80 and 85, but
Okay.
I've done a 60-minute version when I went to the Serendipity Festival in Goa.
Okay.
Uh,
Hmm.
it was amazing. We've taken it to
Hmm.
Pondicherry, Auroville. Again, amazing
Hmm.
response. So it can be
Hmm.
60 minutes or it can be 70 minutes. We have two
Okay.
versions. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And
Yeah.
this theatre production also has a mix of Bharatanatyam and
Yes.
Mohiniyattam and the contemporary dance. So
Well,
how do you?
yeah. See,
So
basically,
how do
my
you?
style. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hmm.
Finish your question, please.
Uh,
How do I?
yeah, yeah. So how do you merge all the dance forms together? Is it very challenging to do that? Because a production has to flow from one point, but that it has to seamlessly flow from one to the other, no?
Yes, absolutely. That's why it's extremely important because I've been trained in theater, voice, chanting, music, contemporary dance, and Bharatanatyam, with, of course,
Mm,
other forms. But in this work, I have not really used Mohiniyattam and the other forms. I've used Bharatanatyam first because my dancers are Bharatanatyam, and I
okay.
have two theater actors, both of them who can
Mm,
chant and sing beautifully. Okay.
okay.
Also,
Mm,
also the main character has to be somebody who speaks Tamil and can sing because I make her sing also, you know.
mm, mm,
So I am I am constrained in the fact that I can't have a North Indian girl play the role just because she's a good dancer. I need to have somebody who
mm.
can sing and speak
Uh,
the
yeah,
lines.
true.
But
Mm,
in the knitting of it, and making it like a braid, I have to be very
mm,
careful how I use voice, how I use theater, where I use dance. So in this work, my dancers also sing. It's very
mm, okay.
participatory. They also
Mhm,
sing. They are active in it. So it has taken time. It took me 1 year, 1 full year to create this work and to
mm,
make sure that all the elements that I was interested in were came
mm,
in came in seamlessly. They didn't look like a cut
mm,
paste.
mm, mm, mm.
Yeah. So
Okay.
finally, of course, the audience has to decide. Audience has to decide ke kaisa laga. You know?
Huh, true.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
has to be, it must be spectacular.
Well,
So,
that's what people say. Yeah.
so let us go back to your early life. Now we want to know about you as a whole. So,
As a whole.
tell that, yeah. So, tell me about your early life, like your entry into Bharatanatyam. How did you
Well,
get inspired?
uh,
That's how you
well,
begin
the
with, no?
yeah.
Mm,
Okay. The whole reason I'm dancing is because
mm,
my mother was not allowed to dance. She
okay.
had a very strict father who thought dance in the 1940s was not for girls from good families. That was his view. And so my mother took a oath to herself. If I have daughters, I will make sure that they have the opportunity to dance. So she she introduced my sister and me. I have a younger sister, Preeta,
Mm,
to
mm,
dance early in life. And we
mm,
were very lucky
mm,
because a family friend who was also a dance guru called Guru Raji Narayan,
mm,
she's no
mm,
longer with us, but
mm.
she was like a friend of the family. And she
Okay.
came like a friend and I would sit on her lap and she would first teach me songs. So I started from age 3, which is very, very young, because my
Yeah.
mother said, My God, this girl is dancing all the time. So today I
Mm.
am the first generation professional artist on either side of my family.
Oh.
All my family are either professionals, law, medicine, engineering,
Mm.
uh, or they are in entrepreneurship and business.
Okay. So your dad was fine with it?
My dad was completely in support of what my mother decided. he would
Okay.
he would face all the criticism from his elders, you know, say,
Okay.
why are you doing this? Anita and Preeta will get a bad name, family will get a bad
Mm,
name, nobody will marry your daughters. And my father would say,
mm,
doesn't matter,
mm.
doesn't matter. And
Okay.
also, and
Okay.
also because we showed talent, we showed
Mm,
potential. And I
mm,
loved it because I loved being in the spotlight. I loved
mm.
being like, light on and photograph and this. I loved it. I really loved it. So, and then
Okay.
you see, a parent can only introduce you to something. After that, you have to take it on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's your
So
interest actually.
correct. So that turning
Uh,
point comes for many young kids between, I would say, 9 to 14 is when kids either rebel. I
mm,
don't want this. I don't want that. And if you just persist, through it, because I was good, I was getting performance opportunities also. It was in
mm,
school.
mm.
In school, I would always be called to be the main dancer in things.
Okay.
So there was always
Mm,
something that put me on stage to sort of keep the
mm,
interest up rather than only dance class.
mm. Okay.
And
Okay.
then I
So,
would say by about 1920, I had performed so often. Every weekend we would get on a train, go to some town,
mm,
dance, get back on the train, come. Because my parents were very keen on two other things. We must get good
mhm,
marks in school, and we must do well in
mm,
sports. Sports was very
mm,
important in my family because they felt that
mm.
dance and music will make you feel very self-centered. You know, like
Okay.
we'll only be looking at our reflection in the mirror.
Mm, mm,
Whereas sports will force you to compete, do your best, give your best, and then the result
mm,
you have to accept because there can only be one winner and one
mm,
loser. You have to
mm,
understand that sports is like life.
mm,
You win or you
mm,
lose. Either way, you have to
mm,
take it very, very gracefully. You have to accept.
mm,
So all
mm,
these things, there was dance, there was sports, there was studies. So
mm,
life was full for us, and the
mm,
idea of
mm,
doing your best, like doing your best and working hard, that was definitely
mm,
there. We would wake up at five
mm.
o'clock. We would alternately either we would run behind my mother's car to develop stamina. I would go for
Okay.
tennis. I would go for tennis, or I would go for a swim. And
Mm,
soon after school, we would go straight to dance class
okay.
for 2 hours, then
And
come home.
you never felt it hectic at that time? You enjoyed it all. Okay.
In college, I was sports captain. In school, I
Mm,
was, house captain. I was so many things. I took leadership
mm,
roles everywhere. I just loved it.
mm,
I just loved
mm,
it. I never also remember that in the 70s, the idea of a
mm,
social life was very different. We don't have the
mhm.
kind of places that all young people can just go to,
True.
today, like all
Uh,
very few
mm,
places you could go. And so
mm,
we could go to the club that my parents were members of.
mm,
We didn't have that many
mhm,
hotels to eat in and all these
mm,
were the various no, we didn't have, it was very limited. So it's not
mm,
as if going to a movie was a big thing, going to the cinema was a big
mm,
thing. Every
mm,
year my father and mother would take us on
mm.
a train journey. I've spent a lot of time in Delhi because my Masi used to live
Okay.
in golf links. Lot of time in
Okay.
Delhi. I'm very familiar
Mm,
with Delhi. I'm very familiar with
mm.
Assam because
Okay.
my Mosa was with Oil India, and I would go many times to Assam, Duliajan, Digboy, Dibrugarh, Jorhat, Tinsukia, Shillong. I know that
Mm,
part. Then I know Delhi very well. So
mm,
I never rebelled. And then when I got to be about 21, I said, I can't keep
mm,
doing this. It's too boring. And then I
mm.
applied and I got a scholarship to study at the University of New Orleans in Louisiana, America,
Mm,
to do theater and
mhm,
film. Theater and film.
mm,
So I got into the MA program, uh, and it was just wonderful those 2 years
mm,
because I got to meet so many people. The first time that I met
mm,
people of different identities. We talk now of identity. We talk of male and female. But I met so many
mm,
people who were what today we call part of the LGBTQIA community, And they were also
Okay.
creative. One was a designer, one was a musician, one was a, and they were all students with me in the costume department,
Mm.
music department, theater department. I felt that I just grew so much. I realized, my God, the world is so large. You know, the
Mm.
world is so large
Mm.
in shades of gray. There is no
Mm.
absolute black and white.
Yeah,
It was,
true. True.
it was a beautiful learning. And then I moved to New York. My sister was married and
Mm.
she was there. She was working for the United Nations. And then
Mm.
I saw an ad for a small Indian TV show. I went and I applied. I got the job as a newsreader. I also had a
Mm.
part-time job with the India Tourist Office as information
Okay.
officer, as at the
Mm.
front desk. Then from
Mm.
that TV show and being a newsreader, then somebody else saw me. They wanted to start a another TV show for the
Mm.
Indian community. And then I became the host and producer. For 9 years, I was host and producer of a TV show that had both Bollywood songs, very much
Mm.
like Chitrahar in the early
Chitrahar.
years
Mm.
of Doordarshan. But
Mm.
these shows had a theme. Like there would be a theme
Okay.
on Holi, and we'll play all the Holi songs. And then we
Okay.
also had a news and community section, which we
Okay.
called Indigo, the Colors of India. And we would do a lot of
Okay.
community news. I remember covering
Mm.
Mrs. Gandhi's assassination because the Sikh
Okay.
community at that time, the Khalistan movement was quite
Mm.
strong in North America.
Mm.
Then
Mm.
we've covered many things politically. Being in New York, we would also have a lot of
Mm.
people coming. In the 80s,
Mm.
all these film stars
Mm.
would come with these live shows. So I've interviewed
Mm.
many of them, Anil Kapoor and Sri Devi and
Okay.
Amitabh Bachchan and Jaya Bhadur, that generation of
Huh?
stars in 1980s. It was a lot of fun. And television taught
Mm.
me how to think
Mm.
quickly, like now, how to think about
Mm.
editing. Because you
Mm.
can't just, you have to edit. Things have to be
Edit.
3 minutes, 5 minutes,
Mm.
7 minutes. You have to come in on a deadline. You have to
Yeah.
learn how to work with a team. So it was a
Mm.
very excellent experience. I didn't dance very much here and there. I
Mm.
loved television. I
Mm.
used to watch people coming,
Mm.
dancers, musicians coming from India and performing, and I would interview them. And people would say, "Why are you not dancing?" I said, "Oh, I'm enjoying this so much because one performance will reach 500 people, one broadcast will reach 100,000 people." you
Mm.
know the effort.
So,
then then
huh.
my marriage, during that time I met my husband. I married, had my two children, a daughter and a
Mm.
son. But then things didn't work out in the marriage, and my husband was
Mhm.
was my partner in the television company. So I
Okay.
decided that when it became very difficult for me, I decided that I would take my children and return to India
Mhm.
because I wanted my children to be safe. My daughter was two and a
Mm.
half, and my son was 2 months old. So I wanted my children to be safe. I responded as a mother first and not as a
Mm.
professional. So I came back
Mm.
to India to an amazingly supportive and loving family. And my mother said, "Okay, here, we'll take care of the kids. Now you
Mm.
figure out what you're going to do. You decide.
Mm.
The home is here, everything is here, you're okay." You know, I
Mm.
think that was very important for me because for many women, when something happens in their personal life, sometimes their
Mm.
own family is not there to support them.
Mm.
Their own parents will say, "No, this is your life. You better just adjust somehow."
Mm.
So,
Mm.
which is why a lot of women also do
Mm.
self harm. You know, uh, they harm themselves because their own their own parents have closed the door on them. So,
Mm.
I tell my both my children, I said,
Mm.
my parents had the door open for me, and I'll never do
Mm.
that to either of you if anything
Mm.
happens.
Mm.
So when I came back, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I realized that I had got so much experience from working in media that I said,
Mhm.
I can't go back to the stage. I can't be that Bharatanatyam dancer I was before I left. My life had changed. I had to
Oh.
bring something else. So the
Mm.
first thing I did was I started a foundation at the Arangam Trust, and I created a phone
Mhm.
book. I don't know whether you know about Nartaki, which is a
I
phone
know, I know,
directory. Yeah. So Nartaki was a phone
I know.
directory in 1992. Then I did another edition in 1997, and then we went online in 2000. So
Mm.
I
Yeah.
was always thinking about not just
Mm.
me, but the field. What
Other.
is the field?
Mm.
What can I do for
Mm.
the field while I'm doing my own work? So,
Mm.
uh, so even now, I'm not a
Mm.
guru in the normal sense. I don't have a
Yeah.
dance class. I don't do arangetrams. I
Mm.
don't have a
Mm.
school. But through
Mm.
my trust, I
Mm.
take a project and I will hire
Mm.
dancers, audition and contract
Mm.
with them. So Nachiyar, now the
Mm.
dancers have been with me for 4 years. We started before COVID and we had a 2 year break, and now we've continued.
Mhm.
So, and even
Okay.
now we have a second batch of dancers. Like the first batch is like they've gone on to do other
Mm.
things. One has become a social
Mm.
media influencer, one has done something else, whatever. You know, you allow them to
Okay.
fly. You allow them to fly.
Mm. Mm.
And another batch comes. So this is the
Okay.
process of how I create. So
Mm.
yeah, this is my
So,
life.
see, that's quite an interesting life. But you never, while you were doing the TV production work and in New York, you never missed your Bharatanatyam because you were so
No,
much into Bharatanatyam. Not at
no,
all.
I never missed it because this was also so creative. It
Hmm.
was so creative. And media, there are no deadlines. You're working through
Hmm.
sometimes through the night. You're sometimes working
Hmm.
18 hours a day, 20 hours a day.
Hmm.
There was no time for anything else.
Hmm.
You either
So,
do this fully, yeah.
so anytime you are into one particular thing, you are totally into it and you forget the rest of the things.
Well, especially when you're starting something, you have to like completely
Hmm.
focus because you
Hmm.
have to make you have to create a product that you people will not
Hmm.
forget. Even today,
Hmm.
I have
Hmm.
children of who come in America and say, my parents used to watch your show. My parents used to watch
Okay.
your show. So I said,
Hmm.
oh wow, okay, okay. So that's good.
Do you ever think of like starting some similar production in India here?
No, actually, the I am a
Mm,
digital producer because since the lockdown,
mm,
on the Nartaki handle,
mm,
we did a lot of digital movies, commissioned
mm,
dancers to
mm,
do lots of things. So I
mm,
feel that that part of the technology and that part of the knowledge has come into
mm.
Instagram and Facebook and
Yeah, yeah.
that kind of thing. So I have a fairly
Mm,
strong Instagram presence. I don't pay enough
mm.
attention. I have to make it grow, and I feel that
Okay.
now my voice, my experience actually should be
Mhm,
shared
mm,
with the younger people,
mm.
not just my
True.
dance, but what I've
Mm,
learned through this. So I think
mm.
that's what I'm working. I've started a podcast. So
Okay.
all these are, I would say, media initiatives. You know,
Yeah,
yes,
the advanced form of TV,
exactly.
moving
Like
ahead of TV. Yeah.
so, it's like we're on YouTube now because of
Mm,
you.
mm,
So it
mm.
that's also television.
Yeah, that's true. Acha.
Yeah.
Acha, tell me, you are like mixing the contemporary dance with the classical Indian dances. How challenging is that? Is it easy?
It No, it's very challenging
Mm,
because
mm,
I don't think of the word fusion or mixing.
mm,
I have to
mm,
think about what is the theme, and I have to think about what I want to say, how I want to say it. Do I want to say it through movement? Do I want to say it through a song that I will sing or a chant? Will I tell the story? I have to really think very hard. I, I, I
mm,
I cannot take, so that's why it takes longer. It
mm,
takes longer for me to create a work. I'm right now doing a work, although I got the President's Award for Contemporary Dance in 2016,
mm,
and I've
mm,
got some other awards. I've danced in many countries in the
mm,
world. But every time I think of a topic, I have to really think. I have to really work
Very
Uh,
hard.
yeah.
So, do you think that youngsters these days they are into classical Indian dances, or they all want Bollywood kind of dancing?
Well, let me tell you, classical dance and music is not easy.
Hmm.
Classical dance and music is tough. They say
Hmm.
abhyas and riyaz for a reason.
Hmm.
But the most skilled Bollywood choreographers and dancers have
Hmm.
had some classical
Hmm.
training. There was a
Hmm.
time, maybe until maybe say Madhuri Dixit, where
Hmm.
you had to have classical training,
Hmm.
you know, and otherwise you couldn't be a heroine. Vaijayanti Mala,
Yeah,
Hema Malini, Wahida Rahman,
they all.
uh, many Sridevi, Rekha,
Hmm.
they all had classical training. And even
Hmm.
Saroj Khan would say that to choreograph
Hmm.
for those ladies was such a delight. Whereas to choreograph
Hmm.
for those artists who didn't know much, so
Hmm.
she had to think about choreographing for, say, a Karina or a Katrina or a Kajol,
Hmm.
very differently from when she
Hmm.
approached Madhuri, Sridevi,
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
they would absorb the movement like that.
Hmm. Hmm. So you think that youngsters today are they want to go into Indian classical, or they are not? What's your experience about
Well,
the younger
I
crowd?
think I think let's just
Hmm.
stay in cinema dance. I think film dance is
Hmm.
also not easy. It's not easy. If you
It's
look at
not
the
easy. Yeah.
if you look at the choreography of a Shamak Davar or a Remo or Ashley Lobo,
Hmm.
whoever is,
Hmm.
that's also complicated steps. That's also an art. It's not like it's only not
Sometimes,
one jet.
sometimes it also feels like gymnastics and exercising.
Yeah, but that also takes effort. What I'm
Yeah,
saying
it
is
takes effort, no doubt.
it's not something that just anybody can do. You can stand and
Yeah,
just do jet tuck 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 tuck
yeah.
tuck tuck tuck. Yes,
True.
you can.
Uh,
That's fun. But if you
hmm.
want to do
Hmm.
that choreography, it takes a
Hmm.
lot of hard work. So there is a
Yeah.
system even for that. But I think
Hmm.
today, generally, there are a lot of young people want
Hmm.
results more quicker, faster results. If
Hmm.
they go to a dance class, they want to perform on stage quickly.
Hmm.
They want to be seen. They want
Hmm.
to have that Instagram moment. So
Hmm.
that's why I think performing on Instagram has become so popular,
Hmm.
performing for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute ka reel, edit karo, and then you can look
Hmm.
very nice. But you ask the
Hmm.
same dancer to come on stage and do the dance
Hmm.
for 10 minutes. Maybe the dancer can't do it. So maybe
Yeah.
today we have a parallel dance life. You're an Instagram dancer, a digital dancer, where you are a good filmmaker, a clever filmmaker. You look good on the screen, and you can create your dance persona for the screen.
Hmm.
But then don't aspire to be on stage as well, because
Hmm.
that is different. That chemistry is different. But so
So
generally the young
you.
people want, yeah,
Hmm.
they want
Hmm.
they want immediate results.
Hmm. Which is not possible in classical. Hmm. Acha, you never thought of becoming a guru? You hire dancers and you do these productions. That is also one way of propagating the dance forms and all that is fine, but usually the classical dancers, they once they achieve a certain height, they do turn into gurus, and they want to like have like a set of disciples whom they are teaching. You never thought of.
Ne- no, the reason is I moved back and I live in a city that has 5,000 schools already, of which at
Okay.
least uh, of which
Okay.
at least yeah, of which at
Hmm.
least 100 are very, very good.
Okay.
Uh,
So you
100
had to
are very,
carve
very
out
good.
a new way. You had to
I had to
carve out a
carve a
new
new
way.
way. Yes, I had to
Hmm,
carve out a
hmm,
new way.
hmm, hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So now tell me about Nartaki. How, like you are doing so many things, how do you get time? First of all, tell me that.
I don't know about it. I just have all these
Yeah.
things in my head. I'm basically
Mm,
I
mm,
don't micromanage Nartaki.
mm.
I try to do things that support and complement it. I don't micromanage it. I have a good team
Okay.
of 3 or 4 people, and
Mm,
we try to reflect the news, you know, of the portal.
mm.
So and we are right now, the reason I was late for our meeting was because I was having a staff meeting that ran over on some of the
Okay.
controversies that have erupted and how to cover them. You see, the thing is,
Okay.
we should be careful that we don't take sides in the dance and music world. Today there are two big
Mm,
controversies that are flaring up, and how do we
mhm,
cover them? By reporting both sides. This is what happened, this is, so
mm,
that let people read and let people then make up their
mm,
own minds. Yeah, because
mm, mm, mm,
it's easy for people to say, what side are you on, what is your opinion? And I think today,
mm,
to have an opinion on everything, we don't need.
mm.
We
We
can
don't need.
sometimes we don't need, we can just sometimes
Yeah.
wait and be silent.
Mm, mm. True. So, how do you look back at your life? Like the trust you set up in 92, it's been,
92.
say, 32 years, 32 years, and then 23 years of Nartaki.com. How do
Yes,
you look when you
24.
look back?
We finish
Tw-
24 and we start year 25 in April.
Okay,
2000 to,
okay.
yeah, 24 ho gaya. So we'll
Huh,
start year 25. See, now I'm
okay.
thinking serious. Now I'm really thinking
Mm,
about legacy. I'm thinking about legacy.
mhm,
What is my
mhm.
legacy? My children don't do what I do. They're not interested in what I do. They have their own lives.
Okay, okay.
My daughter runs a animal hospital. She's very involved
Okay.
in animal welfare. My son is in the
Mhm,
food business. He's a self-taught
mhm,
chef and he has a cloud kitchen. So I need them
mhm,
to also live their lives, you know.
mm,
And so then what is my legacy? Well, my legacy is digital, so it will stay. I don't have
mm,
buildings and things like that, but still,
mm,
I am
mm,
the I am like the creator, so I get emotional about things. So the
mm,
idea now is to create a team who can think logically, who can think
mm,
with more with a business mindset. I don't know if I'll find it, because you know how it is, arts writing, arts
mm,
reporting, all that is
mm,
not really important in media. For them, it's politics, cricket, film, now fashion and food.
mm.
You know,
Yeah.
those are like the important things for which you have, or and technology, for which you have full-time
Mm,
writers, full-time reporters. Arts is
mm,
always, arts and entertainment have come together. So it
mm,
can be one of those small stories, you know, a little,
mm,
like a little
mm,
tukda story. But within that, I feel we need to make an impact, because we have
mm,
politically, we keep saying um, that India is shining, India soft power, India, so many things. And when we talk of
mm.
Atma Nirbhar Bharat, we have to think about all these artists who are actually carrying that soft power within them,
Yeah.
you
Mm,
know, much more than
mm,
chefs or cricketers or film stars. It is the performers, the theater people, the
mm,
musicians, and the dancers and the puppeteers,
mm,
and they are the
mm,
ones who are having that really that atmanirbhar when they perform, you know, when they sing or they dance. So I feel we need to pay more attention to that sector of
mm,
society, you know.
mm,
Folk artists as well, folk artists as well. I'm not only saying classical. So, and with
mm,
them comes craft, is all automatically comes. What we wear is part of craft. Our costumes, the
mm,
weave, everything, you know, the jewelry.
mm,
So if you look at that dancer, classical or folk, that dancer
mm,
becomes a living monument or a testimony or a museum in which you can talk about many things: sculpture,
mm,
music, dance, history, craft, design, weave.
mm,
See, we can think of that. The person is completely like standing there, and we can tell
mm,
many strands of
mm,
Indian history. I
Indian
feel we
culture.
need Indian culture. We need to pay more attention to that.
Hmm. Do you have any plan in mind?
Oh my God. I've done so much. Why do I have to do more? Young people have to do now.
Okay. 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 Okay.
But who knows? I never say
Huh,
die.
huh,
So let's see. Let's
huh.
see.
Okay. Okay. So I was asking you, how do you look back at your life?
I look back at my life to say that I've made lots of good choices. I've made lots of bad choices. I have a lot of scars on me emotionally and physically. I fell down, woke up, got up, dusted, and I just kept going. So the
Hmm.
thing that I don't want to do is I don't want to regret because you cannot go back. You know, even
Hmm.
if even if my marriage ended badly, which it did, I said the experience I got out of it, the my children who I have with me, I
Hmm.
have to look back with kindness and think of the good times. So
Hmm.
I've got into lots of controversies. People have trolled me
Hmm.
and accused me of just my birth, of because the caste thing is so prevalent in India, the caste dialogues and discourse. So I have to stop and say, why is this being said about me? How can I engage?
Hmm.
Is it true? Is it not true? There's some things that you cannot change, right, about yourself, about your.
Hmm.
But how can one be more inclusive? How can one um, listen to other voices and opinions? That's what we need to do. I
Hmm.
think that's what I'm trying to do. I can say that even
Hmm.
today, in my 60s, I'm learning
Hmm.
still every day. I'm learning and I'm unlearning, and both
Hmm.
things are hard. Learning and unlearning
Hmm.
both are hard because it
Hmm.
we deal with the ego. Like, how can
Hmm.
I give up something I've believed in so fiercely?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So
Unlearning is more tough, I think. Learning
yes,
is still easier. Unlearning is
yes,
very tough.
unlearning, correct.
Hmm.
Yeah, yes,
So after this theater production, Nachiyar Next, do you have any other production in mind? Like you'll be
yes,
taking
I'm
this to different cities, but apart from
different
that, because it
yes,
takes long to
I'm
do a particular project. So do
yes,
you have
so
anything in mind?
I have started working on a
Mm-hmm.
solo.
Mm-hmm.
The overall title is Prism, and
Okay.
it is about uh, a woman's journey, a solitary journey in faith. So I am thinking of
Mm-hmm.
the Tibetan mountains. I'm thinking of somewhere, I don't know if there's a Shiv and Parvati right now. I don't really know exactly how that will fit in. I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
of a Tai Chi kind of very meditative movement. I'm thinking of a Drupad voice. So
Mm-hmm.
the fragments are coming to me. I've got some fragments also choreographed. I'm sitting now
Mm-hmm.
with the music director, and there are a lot of things I'm sitting. It's very unformed right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's very
But you're working
unformed
on
right
it.
now. Yes.
Okay. So as we come to an end of this session, one thing I want to ask you, you have performed almost everywhere, no? Across the country and abroad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
है ना?
know you
So
cannot say everywhere. The world is so large, but yes. Okay, many
I know,
countries.
but
Yes.
not many places you've performed. Which place have you found the audience to be most receptive?
Japan and Australia.
Okay.
Yeah, two very different
Any,
audiences.
uh,
Japan, they are very attentive, and
mm,
they are not mesmerized by
mm,
beauty. They don't want to be charmed by beauty. They want to look at
okay.
they want to look at the underside.
Okay. And Australia?
Okay, and Australia, they look with,
Mm,
oh wow, Indian dance can do this. So
okay.
the contemporary, the Australian community and the indigenous
Mm,
Australian community are like,
mm,
wow, we love this. Japan is
mm,
quieter, much
okay.
more thoughtful.
Mm-hmm,
They're not loud in their appreciation. They're very
mm-hmm,
respectful, but they ask very different questions and they make very different
mm.
observations. Australia is expressive, more expressive,
Japan,
and
Japan is more intellectual.
yes, much more
Okay.
intellectual. Yeah, much
Okay.
more. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Anita ji, thank you so much for talking to us. And it was a pleasure knowing you. and learning from you. And I wish you all the best for your March 31st performance and your next production that you are working on.
Thank
Wish
you
you all the
so much
best.
for giving me the time to share my life and my thoughts. And thank you very much to
No,
all the viewers.
yeah,
And do catch Nachiyar Next when you see it in your city.
yeah, yeah, sure.